The night air felt unusually heavy as the private jet sliced through the dark clouds, carrying three of the world's most iconic footballers toward a destination none of them fully understood. Neymar sat by the window, staring into the endless black ocean below, a faint uneasiness settling in his chest. Across from him, Messi remained quiet, scrolling absent-mindedly on his phone, while Ronaldo leaned back with his usual confidence, though even he couldn't ignore the strange tension in the air. It had started as a rumor, whispers circulating among elite circles about a hidden island, a place untouched by modern civilization, where strange rituals and unexplainable phenomena were said to occur. At first, it sounded like nothing more than a myth, a story designed to intrigue the curious and the brave. But the more they heard, the more real it seemed. Invitations had been sent, mysterious and unsigned, promising an experience unlike anything they had ever encountered. Curiosity had brought them together. Now, as the jet prepared to land on a narrow strip carved into the island, curiosity was slowly turning into doubt. The island revealed itself under the dim glow of the moon, dense jungle, jagged cliffs, and an unsettling silence that seemed to swallow the sound of the crashing waves. There were no lights, no signs of life, just darkness stretching endlessly in every direction. As the plane touched down, a cold wind rushed across the runway, carrying with it a faint, almost imperceptible whisper. "Do you hear that?" Neymar asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Messi looked up, frowning. "Hear what?" Before Neymar could answer, the sound faded, leaving only the echo of his own racing heartbeat. They stepped off the plane, greeted by a single figure standing at the edge of the runway. The man was tall and thin, his face partially hidden beneath a hood. Without saying a word, he gestured for them to follow. There was something unnatural about the way he moved, too smooth, too silent, as if he wasn't entirely there. Ronaldo exchanged a glance with the others. "Well, we didn't come all this way to stand around," he said, masking his unease with a confident smile. They followed the hooded figure into the jungle, the path barely visible beneath their feet. The trees loomed overhead like towering shadows, their branches twisting into unnatural shapes. The deeper they went, the quieter it became, until even the sound of their footsteps seemed to disappear. Minutes felt like hours as they walked, the darkness pressing in around them. Occasionally, Neymar thought he saw movement between the trees, something watching them, keeping pace just beyond the edge of his vision. Every time he turned to look, there was nothing there. Finally, they arrived at a clearing. In the center stood a large, ancient structure made of stone, covered in strange carvings that seemed to shift when looked at for too long. Torches flickered along its walls, casting dancing shadows that felt almost alive. A group of people stood around the structure, their faces hidden behind masks carved from bone. "This is it," the hooded man said, his voice low and distorted. "You have been chosen to witness the truth." Messi stepped forward cautiously. "What truth?" The man didn't answer. Instead, he raised his hand, and the masked figures began to chant in a language none of them recognized. The sound was hypnotic, rising and falling in a rhythm that made the ground itself seem to pulse. Neymar felt his chest tighten. "I don't like this," he muttered. Before anyone could respond, the chanting stopped. A deafening silence followed. Then, from somewhere deep within the structure, came a sound that made their blood run cold, a low, guttural growl, unlike anything they had ever heard. It wasn't an animal. It wasn't human. It was something else entirely. The masked figures stepped back, creating a path leading into the darkness of the structure. The hooded man turned to them. "You wanted to know what lies beyond the world you understand," he said. "Now you will see." Ronaldo clenched his fists. "We're not going in there." The man tilted his head slightly. "You already have." Before they could react, the ground beneath them trembled, and the entrance behind them collapsed, sealing them inside the clearing. Panic surged through Neymar as he turned to the others. "We need to get out of here. Now." But there was no escape. The only way forward was into the structure. Reluctantly, they moved together, stepping into the darkness. The air inside was thick and suffocating, filled with a strange metallic smell. The walls were covered in carvings, figures with elongated limbs, twisted faces, and hollow eyes that seemed to follow their every movement. As they ventured deeper, the temperature dropped suddenly, their breath visible in the cold air. The growling sound grew louder, echoing through the narrow corridors. "Stay close," Messi said, his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. They turned a corner and froze. Ahead of them lay a chamber illuminated by a dim, flickering light. In the center was a massive stone altar, stained dark with something that could only be blood. Surrounding it were more masked figures, their chanting returning, louder and more intense than before. And then they saw it. At first, it was just a shadow, an unnatural shape shifting in the darkness behind the altar. But as it moved forward, it became clearer. It was tall, impossibly tall, its body thin and elongated, its skin pale and stretched tightly over its bones. Its face, or what should have been its face, was a horrifying mask of distorted features, its mouth too wide, its eyes too deep, glowing faintly in the dim light. Neymar stumbled back. "What is that?" The creature tilted its head, as if studying them. Then it smiled. The chanting reached a fever pitch as the masked figures dropped to their knees, bowing before the creature. The hooded man stepped forward, his voice filled with reverence. "This is the guardian of the island. The one who feeds, and the one who chooses." Ronaldo shook his head, disbelief and anger mixing in his expression. "This is insane. We're leaving." But as he turned, the walls around them seemed to shift, closing in, trapping them in the chamber. The creature took another step forward. The ground trembled with each movement. Messi grabbed Neymar's arm. "We have to run." "But where?" Neymar replied, panic rising in his voice. The creature let out a low, chilling sound that echoed through the chamber, and suddenly, the masked figures began to move, not toward the creature, but toward them. "They're trying to trap us," Ronaldo shouted. Without another word, they sprinted, dodging the grasping hands of the masked figures, their hearts pounding as they searched desperately for an escape. The corridors twisted and turned, the walls seeming to shift behind them, erasing any path they had taken. The growling followed them. Closer. Louder. Faster. Neymar glanced back, and froze for a split second. The creature was no longer in the chamber. It was behind them. "Run," he screamed. They pushed themselves harder, their lungs burning as they raced through the endless maze of corridors. Just when it seemed like there was no way out, a faint light appeared ahead. The exit. With one final burst of energy, they burst through the opening, collapsing onto the cold ground outside. The jungle air hit them like a wave, and for a moment, everything was still. No chanting. No growling. No creature. Had it all been real? They didn't wait to find out. Scrambling to their feet, they ran back toward the runway, not daring to look back. The jet was still there, waiting as if nothing had happened. They climbed aboard without hesitation, shouting for the pilot to take off immediately. As the plane lifted into the sky, the island disappeared beneath them, swallowed once again by darkness. For a long time, none of them spoke. Finally, Neymar broke the silence. "We're never talking about this again." Messi nodded slowly. Ronaldo stared out the window, his usual confidence replaced by something else, something rare. Fear. But as the island faded into the distance, something strange happened. Far below, in the darkness, a faint glow appeared. And for just a moment, it looked like something was watching them, smiling. Even after they left, the mystery of the island remained unsolved. The rumors didn't stop, in fact, they grew stronger. Stories of others receiving the same invitation began to surface, each one ending in silence. Because those who went, never came back. And somewhere, Deep in the shadows of that cursed island, the guardian still waits. Watching. Choosing. Hungry.